Grigori Rasputin lived a life of drunkenness, inappropriate conduct, and affairs with married women. Basically, he was Russia's early 20th century version of a Florida man. Today, if someone asked you to picture an immoral and corrupt Russian, you'd likely picture Vladimir Putin, obviously. But Putin is a dullard compared to our man of the hour, Rasputin. Hell, Putin is a dullard even compared to a sleeping basset hound. Rasputin, on the other hand, was anything other than boring. He was also anything other than hygienic. Grigori Rasputin, a self-proclaimed holy man, was repeatedly described by acquaintances, critics, and even supporters as unclean, sour, and strongly odorous. This was not later myth-making. It appears in memoirs, police reports, and court gossip from his own lifetime. Several witnesses remarked that Rasputin barely bathed, wore the same clothes for long periods, and seemed indifferent, sometimes deliberately so, to personal hygiene. Disgusting prick. Descriptions mention stale sweat, unwashed hair, greasy clothing, and a general animal or barnyard smell. Lovely. Middle school teachers everywhere can smell this video. Importantly, this was not entirely accidental. Rasputin cultivated the image of a holy peasant mystic, and in early 20th century Russia, extreme asceticism, or at least the appearance of it, could signal spiritual authenticity. Cleanliness suggested vanity. Filth suggested holiness, because there's nothing holier than the odor of egg farts and pit stank. To some followers, the smell was not a flaw, but proof that he was above bourgeois conventions. Ah yes, people in cults will excuse any number of failures as positive traits. Despite cultivating the image of a wandering holy man, Rasputin was never conventionally pious. Contemporary police reports, private letters, and memoirs consistently describe him frequenting social gatherings where flirtation and sexual scandal were common. Women, especially aristocratic women, were drawn to his charisma, his confidence, and his cultivated air of spiritual danger. This attention was not incidental to his influence, it was central to it. Note to self: buy a monk's robe, don't shower, and hit the clubs. Multiple witnesses reported that Rasputin taught a distorted theology in which sin, particularly sexual sin, was a necessary step towards redemption. So far, I am 100% behind his philosophy. This belief conveniently aligned with his personal conduct. According to several accounts, he framed intimacy with women as spiritually cleansing, positioning himself as both the cause of temptation and the agent of forgiveness. Whether sincerely believed or opportunistically deployed, this doctrine gave his behavior a religious veneer that appealed to followers seeking both absolution and transgression. Even smelling like the corpse of a pig that drowned in diarrhea, Raspy was out there slaying ass. Not even trailer park ass. He was tagging some high-end tail. Once Rasputin gained access to elite circles, more like elite vaginas, he became a regular presence in drawing rooms and private salons dominated by wealthy, bored, and often spiritually curious women. Sexually curious women. These gatherings amplified his notoriety. Each new affair, or rumor of one, expanded his fame, which in turn drew more attention. His influence spread socially before it spread politically. You know what else spread socially? Herpes and syphilis. By the time of World War I, Rasputin's sexual reputation was widely known. Reports of drunkenness, affairs, and inappropriate conduct circulated among the nobility and the press. Crucially, these scandals did not remain private. They bled into politics, undermining confidence in Tsar Nicholas's court and reinforcing the perception that the empire was being guided by an immoral mystic driven by appetite rather than principle. Rasputin did not gain power through doctrine, administration, or military success. He gained it through personal access, and much of that access was facilitated by his relationships with women. His behavior created enemies. Banging a lot of married women will do that. It alarmed reformers and ultimately convinced a group of nobles that eliminating him was an act of patriotic necessity. It would also decrease the transmission rate of a plethora of STDs in St. Petersburg, I'd bet. Rasputin's motivations were grounded less in ideology than in desire, particularly sexual desire. He wasn't a master strategist, but a man whose appetites carried him improbably close to the center of an empire and then sealed his fate. Whispers circulated that Grigori Rasputin had an improper, sometimes explicitly sexual relationship with the Tsarina. Others implied emotional or spiritual dependence shading into impropriety. He was fucking her. By late 1916, Grigori Rasputin was widely believed, rightly or wrongly, to exert decisive influence over the Tsarina and by extension over Tsar Nicholas. This mattered enormously because Russia was in the middle of World War I, suffering military disasters, economic collapse, and political unrest. His reputation for drunkenness and sexual impropriety meant few people were willing to publicly defend him, even those who disliked extrajudicial murder. To conservative elites, Rasputin's behavior was proof that the monarchy had lost moral authority, just like their wives. The problem wasn't just that he was immoral, it was that the Empress tolerated him. She did more than tolerate him. This transformed a political assassination into something that could be framed as moral cleansing. The men who killed Rasputin, most notably Prince Felix Yusupov and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, later framed their actions as patriotic necessity. They claimed Rasputin posed an existential threat to the monarchy, and by extension, Russia itself. The conspirators believed killing Rasputin would save the monarchy. In reality, the monarchy collapsed just weeks later. Rasputin's death removed a scapegoat, but not the systemic failures he had come to represent. He was killed because he was embarrassing, influential, and untouchable, a dangerous combination in a dying empire. He also smelled like a bucket of rotting dicks.